Welcome to Quack&Co, the board game channel where every video is 10 minutes or less guaranteed, and today is What About Wednesday, where we take a look at some old games that we've covered, some new games that have come in, and some games that maybe have fallen out of the public conversation just a little bit, and we ask some simple questions. Where'd they go? What's so special about them? What do we think about them now that they've arrived or after they've had a year or more on the shelf? And what is it about them that makes them special, that gives them staying power, that makes them something unique outside of the wider zeitgeist of games? And today, I just finished filming my top 10 family games from our personal collection, going through a list of the games that I think are the most approachable, the most compelling, vibrant, and fun to sit down and play, with an age range of maybe 10 plus. And the number one game on that list was this little guy here, Marvel United. Now, we have the entire collection of Marvel United over there on the Calyxes, just in the other room, in our gameplay studio set, and this is a game that we have gotten to the table multiple times off camera. I want to talk a little bit about what makes Marvel United special. I want to talk about what I think about it now that it's lived in our collection for the better part of a year. And I want to talk about what might be next for the United universe, because I'm very curious to see what might happen as time moves on, because this has been a significant success for Simon, for Marvel, and for the crew over at Spin Master Games, who does the retail distribution. So, Marvel United. What about Marvel United makes it stand out, makes it special? Well, first off, it's a extremely approachable, cooperative-ish game. Depending on what expansions and modules you have, there's a wide variety of gameplay experience that you can explore. You can play head-to-head, you can play teams, you can play solo, you can play cooperative. You can play through mini-campaigns where you're trying to meet and exceed an objective, or you can randomize everything in front of you and just kind of throw it all on the wall and play your own comic book-style story in the Marvel Universe. There's pretty much every character you could think of that you could sit down and run, and they all play slightly differently. So there's a lot of modularity, there's a lot of creativity, and there's many ways to explore the world of Marvel United. That, for me, has always been what's so special about this. There's so much to do, and so much to explore, and all of it is within the lens and the package of a very approachable game system. I told you that I've pulled this off the shelf multiple times over the last few months, and the reason being has always been I'm playing with someone who doesn't know board games as well, who needs to get a little bit more up and running into the gameplay flow and system, who is okay playing the same game multiple times, and who already likes the Marvel franchise. That's what's so special about this. It's an IP that people already know and love. It's very approachable, and the way that we typically play, it's cooperative, so you can hold their hand a little bit as you get started playing. So, what's so special about Marvel United? Well, all of the above. But what do I think about it now that it's lived in the collection for the better part of a year? Well, I think it's really good. And I mean that. Like a solid, good stamp. And some of the modules could even step their way up to great. But the amount of space that it occupies on my shelf might not be worth the investment, and could arguably take up a little bit more room than the game deserves for the amount of times that it gets played. Now, I do think this is my number one family game of all time, but right now, my family consists of me and my wife. One day, God willing, we might have some little runs running around, and then Marvel United takes on a whole another lens for our household. From miniatures to play with and paint, stories that we can tell, and a gameplay that we can explore together as they grow up and get older. I think this holds a candle to everything else. But for my wife and I, we almost never play Marvel United together. I mean, it almost never hits the table, and I've got playmats and an entire column, a 5-shelf column of my Calyx is filled to the brim with this one game. I mean, there's other games like Railroad Inc., for instance, that we play so much more that takes up so little space. So What's my opinion of it now that it's been a year plus of covering it? I think it's awesome. I think it's remarkable. Would I go back and back it and buy it like I did? I'm not entirely convinced. It's certainly a game that I want to have when I have a growing family, and it's a game that I enjoy having when I have friends that are not used to board games over at the house who happen to like the Marvel world and universe. But that doesn't mean that it's always one of those games that I need to own. I think Marvel United is a remarkable, brilliant piece of design work. I think the miniatures are lovely, and if I had the time to paint them all, I would probably want to display them across like the upper banister of my ceiling, or a tall glass tower so people could see just how cool it all is. But when push comes to shove, it's a little bit bigger of a game than I think it needs to be. It's maybe a little bit too ambitious. I mean, CMON has the approach of giving us a lifetime worth of games in a single project. And this was 2 projects, which means CMON gave us 2 lifetimes worth of games across the expanse of the Marvel United world. It's a lot. And I'm curious to know how many people who backed this original Kickstarter are still playing and still own this game, that haven't cycled it or resold it or moved it on to other players. Let me know, is Marvel United one of those games that's just in your collection for the promise of future gameplays, like it is for us? I mean, this is one that I'm holding on to because there's, well, intention around the future. But I think if I had push came to shove today, and I could choose to own it all right now, or maybe reset my collection and I had to pick only a certain number of games to keep or scale down the amount of games we had, I don't know that this one holds its ground. I think it might be one that we'd eventually get rid of. Now, we could always get the core box, and you can always expand with the expansions that are available at retail, but there is something sad about not having access to all of the fancy Kickstarter stuff, which might be one of the reasons why we've held on to it, or at least the vast majority of it, up to this point now. I mean, if we started selling off any little elements of it, it wouldn't be a complete collection anymore, which was one of the negative elements for a CMON Kickstarter in the first place. If I'm backing a game, I want everything for it, but for a CMON game, everything for it is kind of like overcommitting. I mean, it's like buying the fanciest truck in the lot that you still need to take out to the, backyard and do yard work with. You're going to scratch it up, it's going to get dinged and dirty, and eventually not all the pieces are going to still be there. But I want them all. I need them all. But I'm not playing with them all. I think 2 boxes of Marvel United, probably from the X-Men set, and then maybe a box or a module that gave me some new characters to play with from the classic Marvel Universe, would be enough for our collection. We certainly don't need the 5 Calyxes worth of it that we have. So, at the end of the day, what about Marvel United? Well, it's a great game. It's a fascinating game. It's our number 1 family game of all time at the moment. It's a game we're holding on to play with people in the future. But ultimately, after a year of it being in our collection, I don't know that that's necessary or worth it. I'm talking about a future that's still 10 years away, maybe 8 if we're lucky. If we have a very, fast-witted 7 or 8-year-old, they should be able to play this. But I don't know. 8 years is a long time to wait for this amount of an investment to become justified. So let me know. Are you still holding on to Marvel United? What are your current thoughts about it now? And do you think you should have backed it or would have backed it if you had a little bit of hindsight? Also, if you love the game, let me know what you think is so remarkable about it. I told you my thoughts. I think the game is nearly perfect when it comes to a design standpoint. That doesn't mean, though, that it's going to be perfect for me. Thank you for joining me here for What About Wednesdays. Let me know what other games should be coming to this list as we talk and explore and look back at the history of board games and our history of this board game hobby. And we ask that all-important question, wait, what about that game?